budget series. CNBC TV 18 spoke to Hemant Kanoria, the chairman and MD of SREI Infra, to find out what he expects to see in the budget.
I want to start by asking you, at a time when budget is round the corner, as an infrastructure major, what is your expectations from the budget? What do you think should be done by the government so as to give a fillip to the overall sector?
I think that a couple of things which are very important is that, the streamlining of taxation is quite important, because now there are a lot of complications on the taxation side. I'm not saying that new guidelines have to be brought in, but streamlining so it becomes simpler. And this has been one of the agendas of this government, that they want to remove the tax terrorism. So that can only be done if you simplify the taxation. And specifically that you see that the income tax officers, they disallow expenses arbitrarily. They take notional income and tax on that, which is also arbitrary. So this arbitrariness needs to be removed. And I think that will be one step which will be very useful in the budget if it is announced. Second is also on the capital market. You see, the capital debt market is very shallow. And today, if any of the infrastructure projects, they need to raise money, it's very difficult for them to do that. So therefore, the corporate debt market needs to be promoted, and whatever guidelines are required for simplification, the government also needs to bring in provident funds and pension funds and other institutional money, insurance companies and all, to start investing to develop the corporate debt market. And once they've triggered it off, after that I think that there will be no problem for the market to pick it up from there and move forward. So I think that the government has already taken a good step, and last year they've announced the National Infrastructure Fund. And as soon as it gets formed and starts off, I think it would help the companies to a very large extent, because what they propose is that they will be in a position to invest in both equity and mezzanine instruments from that particular fund. So that will help many of the infrastructure companies to deleverage and reduce their debt, also to be in a position to raise more debt for long term if it is required, because once they get deleveraged, then they become viable for other people, both international and domestic institutions, to give them more money on a long-term basis. So a lot of EPC projects and all have been announced, and the government is on track on that. On the reforms, I think that infrastructure space and infrastructure sector does not need reforms. It just needs streamlining the regulations.
Okay. And
wherever certain regulations are missing, to introduce them, tweak around. Wherever there have been problems, mistakes either the private sector has made or the government has made, to tweak around those particular regulations and correct
example, if you could just give?
So to just give you an example, you see that basically one is the infrastructure dispute resolution mechanism. That needs to be set in place, because there are a lot of disputes which are there. And it is inevitable that in the infrastructure sector, there would be disputes. So how do you very quickly resolve it? Because otherwise the project suffers ultimately. And if the cost of the project goes up, who is the ultimate sufferer? It is the ultimate beneficiary, which is the public. So they have to pay a higher cost. So it is in the interest of the government and all the constituents, financial institutions, government and the infrastructure players, to complete the project within the cost and within the time frame, which has been earmarked right up front. Broadly, from the policy framework, the government has done a lot. But there are very many simplistic solutions which are there. That needs to be implemented too.
Budget